Have you ever stopped to think about why, at the exact same time of year, one part of the United States, like Alaska, can be completely frozen over with subarctic temperatures, while folks down in Florida are just lounging on warm, sunny beaches? It's a pretty wild contrast, right? Well, the answer to this lies in the vast, interconnected system that is the physical geography of the United States. We're not just looking at a random collection of isolated states here. We are looking at a giant, dynamic geographic machine where the mountains, the waterways, and the weather all interact with each other. So, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're really diving into the physical geography of the United States. We're going to see exactly how the dirt, the water, and the weather have fundamentally shaped the economy, the wildlife, and quite literally the daily lives of millions of people. Here's our game plan for today. We're going to hit the grand scale, the great American landscape, America's vital waterways, a land of extremes, and finally, fueling the American economy. We're going to build this from the ground up, starting with the foundational landmass all the way to the human impact. All right, Section 1, the grand scale, mapping the United States. Before we get into the weeds, we really need to wrap our heads around this immense physical canvas. Number 3, that is where the United States ranks globally in land area. It's the third largest country in the world. It stretches all the way across the North American continent, from the Atlantic Ocean in the east to the Pacific Ocean in the west. It shares its borders with Canada up north and Mexico down south. And honestly, that massive footprint isn't even counting Alaska, way up in the northwest, or the volcanic islands of Hawaii, way out in the Pacific Ocean. Because this footprint is just so massively large, it naturally creates an almost unmatched variety of landscapes and climates. Moving on to Section 2, the Great American Landscape, exploring major landforms. Let's take a little spatial road trip from east to west. Starting on the East Coast, we've got the Appalachian Mountains. These guys are ancient. They are some of the oldest mountain ranges on Earth. They've been heavily eroded over millions of years, which makes them lower in elevation, sure, but they are incredibly rich in dense forests and massive coal deposits. Historically, these are actually among the very first regions settled by European colonists. Now, fast forward and jump over to the west, and you have the Rocky Mountains. Total opposite. These are young, rugged, towering peaks that stretch for nearly 5,000 kilometers from Canada all the way down to New Mexico. They act as a massive freshwater source where tons of rivers begin, and they're a huge hub for mining, skiing, and tourism. So, the key takeaway here is how the geological age of these mountains directly dictates the shape of the landscape and ultimately how we end up utilizing it. But what sits right between those ancient eastern mountains and the ocean? That would be the coastal plains. These are low, flat, highly fertile lands that border the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico. And look, this isn't just a bunch of empty, flat dirt. These plains are home to major population centers, significant farming operations, vital ocean ports, and huge tourist destinations. They basically form this critical bridge between the ocean and the interior of the country. Pushing further inland, we hit the interior plains. You've probably heard this called the breadbasket of America, and this brilliantly illustrates how geography literally feeds us. We are looking at vast, flat grasslands that include the famous Great Plains in the western part of the region. This entire area is a massive system of sustenance. It produces absolutely enormous quantities of wheat, corn, and soybeans that feed millions of people all around the globe. All right, let's wrap up our landform tour out on the western edge. Just west of the Rockies, you hit the Basin and Range region. This is a dry, arid landscape filled with alternating mountain ranges and valleys. It's where you're going to find some of America's driest regions, like the Mojave and Great Basin deserts. But keep pushing west toward the Pacific Ocean, and suddenly, bam, you hit the Pacific Coast Ranges. This includes the Sierra Nevada and the Cascades. And here, the landscape just erupts into towering forests, active volcanoes, the stunning Yosemite Valley, and Mount Whitney, which happens to be the highest peak in the continental U.S. It is a literal geographical roller coaster. Which brings us to Section 3, America's vital waterways, the lifelines. Because flowing water across this country isn't just pretty scenery, it is absolutely critical infrastructure. Let's check out the major arteries of this country. First up, the Mississippi River. This massive system drains water from 31 different states. It's acted as a revolutionary transport highway for over 200 years, heavily supporting agriculture right down the center of the United States. Then you've got the Missouri River, which is actually the longest river in the U.S. It eventually joins up with the Mississippi near St. Louis, making that central network even stronger. And out west, we have the Colorado River. Despite flowing through an incredibly dry desert, this absolute powerhouse of a river literally carved the spectacular Grand Canyon over millions of years. And today, that water supplies millions of people across the arid Southwest. Now let's head up north. The Great Lakes, Superior, Michigan, Huron, Erie, and Ontario. They sit right on the border with Canada and hold roughly 20% of the entire world's surface freshwater. Just think about that, 20%. That staggering scale supports major commercial shipping, massive industry, commercial fishing, and tourism. It's a vital economic engine all on its own. All right, Section 4, a land of extremes, climates and natural hazards. Because this whole geographic machine is just so massive, it breeds some pretty drastic climate variations. Up in Alaska, you're experiencing polar and subarctic climates with long freezing winters. Out in Hawaii, it's tropical and warm literally all year round. Down in the southeast, states like Florida deal with a humid subtropical climate. So think hot, sticky summers and mild winters. The southwest, places like Arizona and Nevada, are locked in a hot desert climate with very little rain. Meanwhile, the Midwest gets the classic 4 seasons, which is exactly why it's so perfect for that fertile agricultural land we talked about earlier. And finally, the Pacific Coast offers everything from California's Mediterranean climate with its dry summers to the Pacific Northwest's heavy rainfall and super dense forests. The variety across these zones is just unmatched. But, there's a pretty serious flip side to all this diverse geography. The landforms and the climate directly breed highly localized natural hazards. The western U.S., particularly California, is super vulnerable to earthquakes because it sits right near active tectonic plate boundaries. The flat expanses of the Midwest, they're famous for spawning destructive tornadoes. The Gulf and Atlantic coasts frequently have to face the wrath of hurricanes, spinning off those warm waters. And those hot, dry summers in the western forests we just mentioned, they create the absolute perfect conditions for devastating wildfires. Understanding this specific physical geography is exactly how communities prepare for and survive these distinct regional disasters. And that brings us to our final stop, Section 5, Fueling the American Economy, Natural Resources. This is the ultimate payoff. The physical geography of the United States provides this crazy abundance of natural resources that have directly fueled one of the world's largest economies. This isn't just about rocks and water. This geographic luck is a fundamental reason why the United States emerged as a geopolitical superpower. We have incredibly fertile soil for widespread farming. That ancient Appalachian region we started with, it provides rich coal deposits. Texas, Alaska, and the Gulf of Mexico are major hubs for oil and natural gas. The heavy rains in the Pacific Northwest yield massive timber resources. The Great Lakes region is a historic powerhouse for iron ore. And those towering western mountains, their fast-flowing rivers are harnessed for vital hydroelectric power. Every single region contributes its own unique puzzle piece to the economic engine of the nation. So from those ancient eroded hills of the Appalachians to the towering snow-capped Rockies, from the massive transport network of the Mississippi River to the unmatched freshwater scale of the Great Lakes, from the frozen edges of Alaska to the tropical warmth of Hawaii, every single landscape tells a story about Earth's natural processes and how humans have adapted to them. But it leaves us with an incredibly important question to chew on. As our natural world continues to shift, how will we adapt to the geography of tomorrow? This vast geographic machine is always changing, and understanding it today is really the only way we can prepare for the future. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep wondering, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.